Hey, yo, MYB community, thank you for coming back. Episode number 262 of the Minding Your Business podcast, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. We're recording this on April the 16th, normally be the day after tax day. However, we know that tax day has been extended to, I believe, May the 17th. So you've got another month or so to get that together. Hope this finds you well and in good spirits. Subscribe to the podcast, 5 star, 5 star, wherever you get your pods. That helps us continue to grow the MYB community. And make sure you tap in with me through my Linktree app. You know, that's linktr.ee/champeron. So make sure you check that out. And that is in the show notes right there for you. So I appreciate you guys supporting me through the last few episodes that I've recorded through Clubhouse. Definitely tap in with me there. That link is in that link tree as well. And I'm at Champeron there on Clubhouse. Tap in with me in several rooms at different points during the day. And there's some tremendous dope people across a myriad of industry and subjects that you can connect with. So whether real estate's your thing or whether you're into other things, other industries, other topics, things like that. There's plenty of places for you to link up and tap in with some great people from all over the country and all over the world, for that matter. So definitely check me out right there. Speaking of this, my guest today, we connected through Clubhouse, and it's just kind of showing the dopeness and the power of the app and how it connects people. I'd be willing to say that Clubhouse has done what other social medias have failed to do, and that's the authenticity of the spoken voice. Whereas LinkedIn tried to do that with just the typed word, and it kind of went, once Microsoft got it, it kind of went down the pathway more of Facebook. Clubhouse went the opposite direction and again leveraged the power of the spoken voice. And so a lot of the vanity metrics are not quite as prevalent as you get in other social media. And so that's brought me here to today's guest, Tim Gordon, who joins us today. Gordon buys homes. He's based in San Diego, a city that I love, by the way. The tremendous, really dope city there in California. And for some time, he has been involved with, helping, homeowners. And that's the thing, because, many of you listening are homeowners, and, that situations can arise that can involve property. And Tim and his team do a really tremendous job in working with their clients and building relationships and establishing those. And he's been able to share, some really, creative and, tremendous insight from hearing them on Clubhouse. So I asked him to come today. And so, Tim, man, I appreciate you taking time. It's early where you are, man, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, for having me on, Chaperon. I definitely want to just echo my agreement on what you've said about Clubhouse. I hop on LinkedIn and I don't know anybody. It's just profile photos and, weird little photos of their offices and stuff. And then I hop on Clubhouse and there's voices and realness and authenticity. So it is pretty amazing to think of the bonds that are being created just by throwing on some headphones and hopping in a room now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's as simple of an idea as it is. It's for those of you that have been around a little while like me, you remember from the 90s, the old party lines, right? The phone lines where people would come in, and of course that eventually morphed into, the conference call and Zoom and that sort of thing. But yeah, Tim, you're right, man. I think that when I go on LinkedIn, I'm getting a lot of, just spammy, messages, and people have found ways to automate the inbox in it, but everybody's just sending, and it's just one-way communication is the thing I think that's missed.
Yeah,
the LinkedIn is it's this kind of almost just kind of this binary kind of, people are looking to just kind of more dump on what they do, right? And they're not really delivering value back. It's, hey, Ron, would you be interested in this? Would you be interested in that? Would you, and there's no, kind of dialogue to even get to know people. It's just people searching your profile and looking at keywords, and then, hey, I think this person would be good for whatever I'm doing, and then sending it on.
I've never found much use for LinkedIn. Like, I just don't even know what I feel like unless you're in HR, there's really no point to it. Unless you want to look up like old friends who don't have Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good, I guess, that you're right. Depending on industry, certainly if you're in human resources, HR, or you're in the job market, pretty heavy. It still has a tremendous value there, but it's tough because a lot of times the decision makers that you need to talk to now, they're not spending as much time on it, and so
Yeah,
and then even the recruiters and stuff that are on there, they're kind of cherry picking through talent, and so they can operate as they can, and it's hard to keep everybody's attention. Whereas if you compare that uh, with Clubhouse, on Clubhouse, there's different rooms. You can see, people, what they're doing, and you can hear them and speak, and you have the opportunity to speak directly with people and be able to share value back and forth based on the subject, right? You're able to get into that
yeah,
conversation. And again, it doesn't get into the vanity metrics of, say, like Instagram, where it's, photo and visual focused, Clubhouse is kind of old school in that it focuses on the value that you give. So um, you increase your profile on Clubhouse by delivering more value, not by buying bots, not by coercing people to do this or do that, or there's not really easy ways to do funnels and stuff like that. And so it really just goes back to, can you deliver value, right, in your authentic voice? And I think that's really dope.
it is. Yeah, it's the other ways are much more of a one-way street, and Clubhouse requires this engagement. So the only way it grows is with the engagement and involvement of people. So it encourages folks who are new, folks who want to ask questions, to get involved, which is definitely the most fun. So that's pretty cool. Usually, a lot of these things, the big dogs are just out there putting out the content. They don't really care about the little guys or their questions. In Clubhouse, it requires that, which is a really fun new way to do it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. But let's get right into it with you, man. Yeah, let's share with the audience, kind of your background, and kind of how you got your start, and moving through, kind of the real estate industry.
Sure, sure. I guess the very beginning, I guess, would be I'm I guess, I mean, I started in college having a business. I had a window tinting business in college, so I've got a history of having businesses. That's what put me through college. Really enjoyed it, and this was around 2000, I think 2003, or no, sorry, 2004 to 2008.
Yeah,
And back then, I was using Facebook to advertise the business and had a website. So I would consider myself sort of an early adopter to technology when it comes to marketing.
yeah,
And from there, I graduated college, got into the corporate world in an outside sales position, moved to California, and did about 6 years in the corporate world. And about halfway through that, I started just to realize that I was really missing having my own business, and there was a ceiling to where I was going to be able to go in the corporate world, and discovered real estate investing and started going to local real estate meetups, learned about fix and flips, rentals, wholesaling, and it took me about a year to find success. I really struggled to get a deal closed and sort of get the consistency, and a lot of those things I think folks who are new to real estate investing struggle with. I had those struggles. And after about a year, I found some success with direct mail marketing and started wholesaling real estate in San Diego, building up the bankroll. And as soon as I could, I started buying rentals with loans I could get for my W-2.
yeah,
And once I had exhausted, sort of that path and was making more money doing wholesaling and flipping houses, I left my corporate job and went full time. And that was in 2014. So I guess I'm just about at year 7 being, full-time real estate investor. And the business has shifted over the years. Sometimes
sure,
I'll do more flips or more wholesales. I always try and pick up rentals where I can. And right now I'm using strictly web marketing, SEO marketing to acquire all my deals. And I wholesale probably about a third of the deals, flip the rest. And then I'm
sure,
also developing ADUs, which are like accessory dwelling units, so like building extra units on the rentals that I do have in San Diego. And
yeah.
today might be the day that I get a deal under contract in a secondary market. So I'm actually doing some market testing in some other markets too. But primarily, like what pays my bills is San Diego, where I do my marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're kind of primarily in the San Diego market then,
Mhm.
as far as there.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would say I've done, I think, 2 deals outside of Southern California my entire real estate investment
ah,
career.
I got you. I got you. And so you know, you talked about kind of your transition there, Tim, kind of from the corporate world, being an early adopter in those early Facebook days. Talk about that a little bit because you know a lot of people may not remember those early kind of social media days, kind of the kind of late 2000s as Facebook, which started out as and you were right there because you were in college at the time, so it started out as kind of a college kind of platform and then morphed from there, and a lot of people don't remember those those days. So talk about those early days with Facebook and kind of how you utilize that and to try to get deals done.
Oh man, it makes me smile. So yeah, you're right. I mean, to even get a Facebook account when it first came out, you had to have a college email.
Yeah.
So it was the university I went to. It was a small private business school, but it had an automotive program, and it was primarily business focused. But a lot of the kids there come from wealthy families. Their families owned businesses, um, and so they tended to have really nice cars. And so I think it was more out of need because I had gotten fired. The reason I started my business was I got fired, which is probably how a lot of entrepreneurs start. But
Yeah.
um, I needed to market somehow. And so I started creating photo albums and just constantly posting images of vehicles that we'd done work on and really kind of like pushing out this brand. And it quickly turned into my main source of of clients and referrals. And so I think this was before there was groups. Before you can do ads. It was kind of more like an Instagram style, almost basically just posting content and engaging with
Right.
people. And but it was a tremendous way of getting business. And I think that's what taught me the power of the web. And I've always been a really big fan of inbound marketing. I'm not so great at outbound marketing, and so
Yeah.
I know today in the real estate world, cold calling it's huge. And
Right.
I will do targeted cold calling, but it's just not really my thing. And so I really love figuring out like sort of, you know, what tweaks can I make? How can I sort of set things up on the back end to encourage somebody to come to me and call me? And then they know me, they like me, they've seen my track record, they want to do business with me and whatever my business is. And I found that to be the most fun way of doing lead gen. So that was, in my history. And there was a little website. It was really simple, but uh, back in 2006, 2008, even just a clean little website went a long way. And so I just learned those were the clients I liked, and that was how I would get those clients. And I could charge significantly more than other people for finding myself in that space. And I think I've parlayed that into the real estate world in the same way. And um, hopefully I can continue to grow that. I love internet marketing for that reason.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. And we were talking actually on Clubhouse because there was conversation around kind of the whole cold calling and SMS texting and all the different, like you say, inbound and outbound formats of marketing. And everybody's got their different style, right? And that's one of the great
Yeah.
things that I love about Clubhouse too is that outside of the shaming of sometimes that I think some people do, what I call kind of business model shaming, where
Oh yeah.
anybody that doesn't do what they do, is wrong and that sort of thing. And I think what works for everybody, can be different. And that's one of the dope
Definitely.
pieces of with the real estate industry, unlike other industries that are a little bit more dogmatic and it's got to be done this way and this is the only way that it's done. There's 1,000 different ways to Sunday on how you can market and that sort of thing. I know for me it's a lot of kind of driving for dollars or driving for opportunity, along with some SMS and like you say, there's some cold calling involved in that. But Tim, my philosophy on cold calling is becoming great at cold calling is great. You need to become great at the conversation because ultimately you're going to talk to somebody on the phone.
Yeah.
um, but I think if your focus is just to become great at cold calling, you need to go get a call center job. You know what I mean? I used to manage a call center in banking, and
Yeah.
I look for people that could just be great on the phone like that. I think you just have to become great at the conversation, and be able to listen very well. And that acquisition piece you want to make and streamline as much as you can. right? Because cold calling, for example, is dope, but that's a job, right? That's because you got to make a
It
lot of
is.
phone calls. So it's kind of quality versus quantity. So I want to ask you about SEO because that seems like more of a quality type move in that you're not taking a list of 5,000 people and just banging out calls. What you're doing is you're making some upfront investment that then parlays into what much more warmer opportunities from people who now have demonstrated or at least articulated by their behavior that they want to talk to you. Is that right?
There's no doubt about it. I do a monthly conference call with four other friends, and we all are focused on SEO marketing, and we were just sharing our lead count and different stats, and um, we're all consistently doing deals in our markets. And I think, average about 20 to 25 leads come in per month. That's it
Yeah.
for my business, and that is enough to do deals. And I would guess out of those 25 people, probably 20 of them are going to sell their house. Are they going to sell it to an investor? Probably not, but maybe one or two of those would go to an investor, but the other ones will. Like the sort of the completion rate, I don't really call it, but when that person fills out that form, the chance that they are actually going to sell their house within the next 6 months is extremely high, because it's so different, right? This isn't someone just sitting at home and suddenly gets a phone call. This is someone who's gone and researching methods to sell their house. They're at a completely different stage, and so it's so much of a higher quality lead. And I think I really enjoy it for those reasons. So yeah, it delivers a highly likely to sell lead into my inbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, kind of break down that kind of you kind of gave some basic KPIs on that, or key performance indicators. So if you get, Tim, 25 leads kind of through your SEO marketing channels, how many of those typically will you get under contract and then have some sort of exit strategy that you execute on?
Whew. I mean, it definitely varies from month to month. I'd say consistently, I should be able to get two of those. Sometimes it's a little bit, I can do a little bit better, but I'd say two. There's certain months where it seems like I can't do no wrong, and then there's other months where I just something gets me. But I'd usually say 2 out of 25 can turn into a deal. One of the other things that I like to do, I love leads so much that I want to it's like this little thing, this little prize I've gotten, right? And for my work, and I want to try and find a way to monetize it. But not only that, but be of service to the person that contacts me. So that could be, I get a lot of calls from new wholesalers, for example, because my website shows up high. So I mean, even anyone who's new, I want them to have a positive experience from their conversation with me. Even if we're not going to do any business, thank them for calling me, thank them for thinking of me, give them some encouragement. If it's a lead that I think is best suited with a real estate agent, I'm going to refer that out to a local realtor, and I can monetize that lead. So even if I can't convert that lead, there's other ways that I can create some value from it, which probably the best one, honestly, is referring it out to real estate agents. These are really valuable, very hot seller leads that I can send out. So that's just another angle that I like to bring up when it comes to this type of marketing. I do wonder if folks who are doing cold calling and things like that are doing the same, because out of 20 people who are going to sell their house, I would guess maybe one is going to be like an investor seller. The other 19 are likely best suited to list their house. And I do wonder, how are people monetizing those? What are they going to do with those leads?
Yeah. Well, I think that, one of the things that can be missed in cold calling is, unless you get to every single lead, because you're going to get, obviously there's going to be a percentage that the numbers are not going to be good, right? There, or the person that you're trying to reach is not going to be who's on the other end of the phone. You're going to have to get through people being agitated that you're interrupting their day or whatever they've got going on, or whatever moment in time that you're catching them, right? And so it's a great way to get leads. You just have to, there's a kind of a bigger run or a longer runway that you have to have. That you have to kind of work through. Now, if you're at the point where, having a dialer will help as far as maybe speed that up in terms of who you talk to. So that's definitely a great resource to have for those that do that. Obviously, if you have, when we were talking offline about virtual assistants, so if you've got someone that's trained to have that conversation and can get to those calls. That definitely helps and saves you a lot of time if you're going to do a lot of cold calling.
Yeah, that's
So a
true.
lot of the men and women who do that, they have, some sort of team. But SEO marketing, seems like while having a team is very beneficial, you could do that almost solo, as long as
Yeah.
you've got the ability to make that upfront investment. And so, talk about that. Compare and contrast that with me, Tim. That the upfront investment that it takes for maybe like a basic SEO kind of campaign against some of the other campaigns. How would you kind of compare and contrast those?
That's a
Just from
very
your
good
thought.
question. First, I would say is it's probably not going to generate anything for like a year. So um, then the question comes up, well, how are you going to make money in that year while waiting for the SEO marketing to produce? So for me, I was doing direct mail marketing and had other systems in place that was, keeping me going while that happened. So I think first things first, it probably going to have two channels of marketing going on,
Yeah.
one building your SEO out and two, something else to, pay your bills. Besides that, it's going to be, costs aren't too great. It's going to be creating a website, likely paying someone to, design that, consistently creating like blog posts, adding content.
Yeah.
And then it's really going to depend on how tech savvy you are. So for me, I put myself sort of in the middle range where I understand most of the concepts, maybe more in the middle range, but like I'm not like a back end computer guy. So I outsource a lot of that stuff. So I go on Upwork and I can hire someone to make sure the site's running efficiently. I can hire someone to fix any bugs. I can, so I'm just sort of like sitting in the background, kind of tweaking the knobs and doing those things. But
Yeah.
I imagine someone would probably spend, anywhere from a couple hundred to $1,000 a month, slowly building it up. The caveat obviously is just that it typically takes about a year, depending on the market. If you're in a smaller market, probably less time before it's really going to start showing up in ranking, and starting to, generate leads. And then just like most forms of marketing, a lot of it is like testing and tuning and trying to like guess and figure
Right.
things out and then look at metrics.
Exactly.
So I think a certain amount of time is also necessary just to monitor things and try and figure out what it's doing. For example, like a little nugget that we shared on our SEO conference call the other day was leads we get on Sundays are the best leads we get. And I remember from my direct mail days that like Sunday phone calls were usually the best leads as
Yeah.
well. And so just certain things like, this is more on the pay-per-click if you're doing paid Google advertising, but you could increase your ad spend on a Saturday, Sunday and lower it on other days, and you're likely going to beat your competition.
Yeah.
So, those are just some thoughts on the SEO and sort of what it takes to sort of like build it up and get it going to where it can, start producing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that, for someone that were, kind of getting started, who might be intimidated by, kind of that upfront cost investment and the time, kind of frame that you gave, about a year to really start seeing consistent results. And you alluded to it a little bit earlier, Tim, is that, that other lane of marketing. And so I've always told people this, start where you are, right? You can always start with, whether it's leads on Zillow, that sort of thing for sale by owners. Look, type into the keywords, different things that suggest either levels of distress or, need to sell quickly. Keywords like, whether it's TLC or just simply the word investor or simply the word cash or, there's a number of different keywords that you can put to get opportunities, even just from a Zillow or like a Redfin. And then, like you say, you may have to start out doing, maybe some heavy cold calling, or maybe you get into, a little bit of some of the SMS texting. I like to do that personally, like I mentioned earlier. And so, maybe, there's ways for people to kind of stair step their process, just like with any business, right? I mean, most people don't just dive out and buy or go to maybe the higher end. Sometimes they have to kind of just baby step their way through that. And I think, again, it's really a dope piece that, people can do. And I'm always a big proponent of, that as you upgrade, you're doing that out of revenue. Right. And so as you do a deal or two, and then you take some of that and then you invest back, into the business, and then you get to a point where you're at least doing enough deals consistently to where you're able to invest in things like SEO to, again, kind of this migration of reducing your workload, right? How hard you're running on that treadmill,
Yeah.
and still
Yeah.
getting results.
Yeah. And not only that, when it comes to like, I truly love marketing. And the thing about marketing is if something's working really well, it's still likely there's going to come a time when it's not working so well. And
Right.
so being one step ahead and thinking about, or sort of not just having that one channel. Say, I learned that someone was trying to contact me and my phone was filtering out their calls as spam. And so I wonder, okay, well, does that mean that cold calling's future might be limited if say more government regulation comes in or more sort of like filtering services occur? That might kill that. The same with SMS or pay-per-click on Google, where you pay for your ad to pop up at the top. Like, it's slowly pushing SEO down. And so I know I'm losing business because of that. And so I'm taking some of my profits and I'm going to be putting it into PPC, which is probably going to run about $4,000 to $5,000 per month. And I know that I have to do 3 months of that to test it out. That's a commitment of about 15 grand I have to test out before I know if it's working or not. And that's just that's just the truth of it. But I think being mindful of that is really important, because if something just suddenly drops off the face of the earth and it's no longer working, you've got nothing else built. There's sort of like nothing in the shop that you've been working on. That can be quite devastating to a business. And so,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tim, as we're going through that, do you have a deal what's one of your more memorable deals that maybe you're able to really help someone out, or it maybe had a lot of hair on it? As we know that sometimes we get into deals that sometimes could be hairy in terms of a lot of moving parts or maybe different things that took place. But what was a memorable deal for you?
Oh man,
I think about it.
I have a lot of them, and so I'm sort of like trying to figure out which direction do I want to go in. Do I want to share like one of the hardest ones, one of the most successful ones? And so, gosh, I don't even know where to go with that. But gosh, there's so many of them. I mean, let me think. Recently, I bought a house from someone, and I learned that they weren't actually the owner of the house, and someone successfully stole the identity of the seller, sold me a house, cleared title, and we had over $300,000 locked up for over 30 days. We weren't sure if we were going to get the money back. So that was probably one of the biggest setbacks I've ever had, but it actually was the biggest motivator I've ever had, and business blew up after that I think just from the motivation to try and move forward and make things whole. And so that one, I guess I share as an example of a setback, but just that, like, even at like, say if I'm at like kind of the higher level of the, real estate investing when it comes to the residential side, like I do get setbacks and things can catch me off guard. And it was really tough, but I mean, that was only about 6 weeks ago, and I feel 10 times stronger from going through that.
Yeah.
And I don't regret that it happened. I feel much wiser and as a better investor because of it. Another recent deal was a lead that came through my website right after this. So I've just had someone steal an identity of a seller and sell me their house fraudulently, and it cost me a lot of money for about a month.
Wow.
And I got to get right back up. And I had this lead come in. We text over the phone. I haven't met this person, haven't even been to the house. Yeah. And I send a non-contingent offer to buy this property sight unseen just after this last event happened. And my fiancé is laughing at me because she was like, "You just told my dad that you wouldn't buy another house without meeting the seller, and you've just done it like an hour after talking to him about it."
Right.
Yeah. And that one required a lot of maneuvering because it had family members, a lot of tension. You can't evict someone from a house in California right now, so a buyer isn't going to buy a deal without measures in place to secure that this person is going to leave, because they could stay there, till 2022 right now.
Yeah, they could just squat until the moratorium drops, and who knows when that would be. So yeah,
if a house is occupied here in California and there's any inclination that that person is not going to leave, the value of that house is it's gone. There's no value.
Right.
So navigating that transaction in a way where The occupant feels like they're treated fairly and with respect. The seller, and these were relatives, like, so they're sort of like mending these like relationships that aren't that strong, creating trust where we're going to buy the house. We're going to do as we said we're going to do. We're not going to change the terms. There was a lot of doubts on sort of the investor and, are they going to come in and play games, and navigating that and pulling it off. And it was, like a $75,000 deal for me. And to go through that right after, someone lied to me. Someone tried stealing my money. I was, completely defrauded. And then to the very next go around to create this really strong bond with the seller where, like, we closed the deal. We're working on sort of the final steps of getting the folks out.
Yeah.
And like, we kind of feel like, like buddies who've been through this, like, I don't think war buddies is right. Like, kind of like, but we're like buddies who've just like been through this really tough experience. We did it together and we got it done. And, like if I, and like still got COVID stuff, but like if I saw this guy, I'm giving him a big hug, and I'm like, this is my guy. And so, that kind of stuff it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the seller. And I think for anyone who's looking at, how do you have the most fun and find the most value in the world of real estate? It's situations where you're able to connect with a seller and like truly, truly help solve a problem. And everyone is walking away from it feeling like they've been treated fairly. They feel good looking back about it. And you kind of laugh and smile about the situation at the end of it. And so that deal was really meaningful to me. And it's interesting, right? Because this person, they were working on this sale since 2019, and they didn't have a great relationship with their relative in the house. And there was all these things going on with it. So it was heavy for them, and it was a huge weight off their shoulders to be sort of through this. And then I'm supposed to be this sort of, stoic investor, right, who comes in to buy the house. And the truth is that, like, I'm feeling so emotional. I can almost cry because I'm like, oh my God, like this person was honest with me and they treated me right. And I, got this deal done and we bonded. And so, maybe I'm a bit of a softie, but for me, that stuff is really important. And I love that stuff. And I'm really proud of that transaction. And that's where I sort of, I know I'm rambling a bit, but like for me, the world of real estate is, I love solving complex problems. And and this was one of those. So I'd say that's the one I'm most proud of recently. And that's where I definitely know that's where my perfect fit is in the real estate world. And I think knowing where your perfect fit is very helpful. That's not for everyone, but if you like that type of stuff, you can definitely find yourself creating a lot of value in the residential real estate world.
Yeah, Tim, I love that, man. So one, I appreciate you sharing that, and then two, the notion that you find kind of your space, right? You find your lane, right? And your lane, there's so many different lanes, right, on that road. When you talk about it in business and particularly in real estate. And so you found the lane that works for you, that kind of fits your personality, fits the way that you view the world and the way that you view people, and then the way that you view money. And the combination of all those kind of gets into and kind of fuels your passion. It's the way that you view yourself, the way that you view another person and their situation, the way that you view commerce, right, and your ability to generate income and revenue and that sort of thing. And all those things get blended together, and then it's a matter of how do they fuel the direction that you're going in your passion, right? And then so you've done that and sees that, and you find value, it sounds like, not just in doing the deal, but does the deal make sense and benefit everybody involved? And I think that's a critical piece in real estate, particularly nowadays as wholesaling continues to grow and more people are getting involved in that. Some of that's because of the great nature of education now, the ability to learn the process from so many different people, and then obviously the impact of the job market, where people have their eyes open now to I want to control a little bit more of my destiny. Working in corporate is certainly fine and can be consistent. However, that old notion that came from the past that, well, businesses fail and that sort of thing. And you talked about your experience in corporate. I've certainly shared mine with my audience that the job certainly is not guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
where most of us work in right to work states. We're not unionized, so we don't have the protection of a union, and that sort of thing anymore. And so people have slowly but surely realized that, um, while the job it is they're certainly great, and can have some level of consistency, it's not as secure as people may think. And so, it's certainly, if you're going to be yourself. Now, if you're going to shuck and jive and screw around and be a chameleon and that sort of thing, if you get outside yourself, then yeah, you probably could last a long time. But if you're going to be true and authentic to yourself, it may not be as secure as you think. And so, I love
Sure.
that you talked about being able to help someone, and every party that's involved felt like they left the table with something, right? And something that made sense for them and was of value to them. And so I think that's a good kind of piece and lesson to take from what you described in that transaction, Tim, that people can take away, right, when they get done listening to this podcast, is that they can walk away and say, God, man, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to help other people. Yes, I want to be able to make money along the way, but ultimately I want to see people be just a little bit better. And if I can be a catalyst to that, then that's really dope.
It is. It really is. And if it comes down to price, most times a lot of us in this business, we're not going to likely, be the winner. And that's okay. I don't think that's the seller that really needs that sort of, hands-on touch. And so I think for a lot of folks who are looking at distressed real estate and trying to do those deals, identifying those sellers that have the price is there. I mean, it's probably number 2 on the list. And so like, they're not just going to give a house away, but the higher priority is something human related, or something that like a person, a third party like myself or yourself or someone else can offer some value in navigating that. And those are the deals where, if you're a new investor and you're trying to figure out, how do I find these sellers? Look and listen when you're talking to the sellers, because people have those bigger problems. That's where you can come in and help. And sometimes it's flat out because it's this third party and you don't have that history, and you don't have the, you haven't known this person for, say it's their brother. Well, you haven't known that guy for 30 years. You don't have beef with him. You don't have these problems. Like, sometimes that third party can come in and help mend those bridges. And if a seller believes with confidence that you are the person that can get this thing to the finish line, that will often have a higher value to them than somebody else who's a little bit higher in price and they've got doubts on where that's going to go, because they can't afford for something to go wrong, and that like they've got that one shot in their mind, right? And say we start changing the terms, we're playing games, and now they're their relative or tenant is like, all right, I'm done, I don't trust you, it's over. And so
Right.
I think that's, it's really important. And one of the other things, you're talking about sort of corporate world to this world, and obviously there's lots of sacrifice and it can be stressful. I was very slow January, February, and I was kind of freaking out. My self-confidence was taking a hit.
Sure.
But there's trade-offs and there's rewards for this. And folks go to my Instagram, they'll see like the last 6 years, I've spent about half the year traveling every year. From like, I do my work and then I'm free to go travel. And that was the number one reason I left the corporate world, was I 2 weeks of vacation a year wasn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't going to be this guy who was like 60 and then I'm going to go travel the world, because it feels like each year I get older, my tolerance for BS gets lower and lower and lower. I can't sleep, and like in your 30s, like you can sleep on the floor, man, and you can eat whatever. And like when I'm 60, I don't see myself doing that. So like I need to do these things now before before I'm too old to really like capitalize on it. And so I think that's
you feel an old crabby man.
Oh my god, man, can you imagine? So like and so that's something I definitely want to encourage folks, is just this window between, say, like, it's kind of broad set, between 25 and 40, like that's a time to really make a lot of amazing things happen, and also to bet on yourself. And so I would definitely encourage folks to do their best to try that.
Sure. Yeah, I'm always a big component of, you should have something that's yours, right? Even if no matter what you're doing, right? There should be something within the confines of what you do, that's yours, that you can claim as yours, that's your process and that sort of thing. Whatever that is, right? Some people like event planning, some people like making candles, some people, whatever it is that you can convert into some level of business for yourself. I think you should do that.
Yeah,
And again, that may not be for everybody, right? But
true.
I'm just a believer in that. Tim, pivoting a little bit, what, I guess, outside of real estate, what are some things that you get into? You talked about travel. Obviously that's a big thing for you, but, talk about some things that you get into outside of, kind of real estate.
I love that question because there's so much more to life than just business.
Yeah, they're just doing
Um,
deals, right?
yeah, I mean, that is just such, I mean, that's a part of our personality. And I think it's important not to make that our whole personality. And
Right.
so I live in Oceanside, California. I'm right by the water. I love to surf. I
Hey,
love
there you
to do
go.
yoga. Both of those are ways that I sort of chill myself out after sort of getting hyped up. I get wound up with business pretty easily. So surfing and yoga. I impulse bought a boat last year during COVID. It was like the
Okay.
best impulse decision ever.
Yeah.
And besides that, I do like to spend a lot of time. I'm involved in a couple organizations that it's like youth mentoring. So there's one called Urban Surf. It takes kids who are either like foster kids or live in group homes, and we get them out in the water, get them surfing, and then we have like a
Ah,
monthly mentorship group.
yeah, that's dope.
And then there's another one in LA called Stoked Mentoring, and that one's similar, but it's tied into the classroom. So it takes kids in like I think it's 13 and up, and actually, their mission is basically using um, board sports to shrink the opportunity gap. So it's all about getting kids who might not have access to the beach or might not have access to the mountains and who might not have access to being around, like positive mentors in surfing, snowboarding, and skateboarding and interacting with them. And I actually made a commitment this year where I'm donating $1,000 every time I buy a house. I'm giving $1,000 to these charities.
Yeah.
And so those are the sort of things. Besides, I got my business. I like to travel. I like to be active, and then I really like to give back to those charities. It's something that's really important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's definitely, one, it's really dope. And again, it goes back to what you described when you were doing your deal, right? Is that's part of your mindset and part of your personality is to be able to give back. And so that you're doing that in a real tangible way. Tim, definitely shout out to you on that. And sounds like something that, again, it means a lot to you, and it's unique, right? Because at least for many of us that don't live on the coast and don't have that access to the water, but exposing people to kind of that world of surfing. Yeah. And, the freedom that it allows, it's a skill set, right? From a sports standpoint. And,
Yeah,
many people don't get the access to that and be able to learn it. People think of surfing, they think of, a movie, right? Where you see some guy on this big wave and, and they don't think of the skill set of it. They just see certain movies where it's like, I think of the movie, what's the one that with Keanu Reeves?
Point Break.
Yeah, Point Break, right?
That's
So
one
you
of my
think
all-time favorite movies. I love that
so you
movie.
think of movies like that, or you think of the Ninja Turtles for those of us that are old enough to
Oh
think
yeah,
about, Michelangelo and the Turtles and that sort of thing. So that's kind of what comes to mind for many people with surfing. But to help kids learn, that skill set, I think is really dope, and the investment that you make in it, man. So thanks so much for sharing that. Really, really appreciate that. That's definitely tremendous. What do you see next for your business, man? As depending on what happens with the pandemic, right? Who knows, right? Yeah, none of us have that crystal ball to know what's going to happen next and how things may open up and that sort of thing. But what do you see next? What's the next kind of iteration or phase of your business?
that's a great question. I definitely feel like I'm reaching a little bit of a plateau in what I'm doing in my own market, but
Yeah.
I would like to. So I'm doing new construction on rentals I already own, where you can build in California. You can now build new units basically on the land of your spare land. So I'm going to get started in doing some new construction, which is pretty exciting. Getting a little freaked out about construction costs, and I hate even saying construction costs because everyone's talking about it. But I'm so excited to do like a new build. Like it just sounds so cool.
Yeah.
And besides that, I really want to challenge myself to branch out into some other markets and acquire, more units. I do think it's going to be wise to start doing that outside of California. So I'm testing out some ideas in a few different markets. I might have something in Michigan. That's where I grew up for part of my life in Michigan, so I'm trying that out.
Yeah.
But ultimately, a larger multi-unit property in another state, and it's likely going to be North Carolina. I've got family there, and so I think it's going to be building up some multi-units in another state and having some more fun testing out some marketing and just continuing to. I kind of went into my shell a little bit, the last few years, and didn't really talk to a lot of investors, and kind of kept, my own little world. And I really want to make sure I don't do that anymore because I'm having a lot of fun. And I think Clubhouse has been really good for me to break that habit and to start getting out there and meeting a lot of people who I'm very happy to connect with.
Yeah, it's intriguing because how it's opening up. Like you say, you kind of went into that shell, and how you've kind of found at least somewhat of a safe space, on Clubhouse to be able to interact and meet people, quite frankly, in those markets that you may have an interest in.
Yeah.
Possibly doing business or interjecting, some capital and things like that. Or to extend what you're doing with helping youth there in San Diego, to be able to do that and maybe replicate that on the opposite coast from you. And so to be able to meet and build those trust and confidence relationships through the platform, I think is definitely tremendous. And I like the fact that you're exploring these other markets, and looking into multifamily and that sort of thing. So definitely that's incredible. And you never know, there's opportunities for someone maybe listening to this podcast or continue on Clubhouse, or even for you and I to look at the opportunity where it makes sense. And so
most definitely.
Definitely tremendous. So Tim, as we wrap up, man, because this has been dope, really outstanding conversation, learning from you, man. What are one or two things that have worked for you that you think will help someone that's listening to this? There are people that are starting their business up, or maybe they're looking to transition, maybe they're seeking motivation. What's one or two things that work for you that keep you going, that you think will help somebody else?
Great question. I'll go with two, maybe three. A quick one I'll throw in there: cold showers. Love cold showers.
Cold showers. That's good.
It's an easy thing to just do it. And if you're feeling off or down or whatever, I'm someone, I'll be honest, there are times when I will feel depressed or anxious, and I found cold showers just to be that's a simple thing just to try. Moving on from that, consistently working out. I think if anyone is going to be in entrepreneurship, that's something that I think is critical to mindset and mental health. We get these I've experienced setbacks, and I put on a podcast, go for a bike ride, or go for a surf, or something to be active. It could even be just a walk around the neighborhood, but being active, getting the body moving, I think is really, really good. And also, we've only got one body, so let's try and make this thing last. I hope everyone lives these long, healthy lives. And so I think that's number two. And then number three is keeping a journal and writing things down. I've got my first journal from when I went to my first real estate investing club. And when I open that thing up and look at it, it just makes me so happy to look at the journey and have documentation of it. It's sort of like, say we lose a loved one and we're looking at photos of them and we're like, oh man, I wish I had more photos, with so-and-so. And I feel like the journal is like our own personal sort of photo album where we can keep our thoughts and where we're going and what's going on. And so I think those are the three things I would really encourage the folks. Those have all been really helpful for me. So hopefully those tips can help someone else out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly, those cold showers, I don't know, some people may be listening to that, Tim, oh, I don't know if I can stomach that cold shower.
Not that bad. If you on a cold morning can hop under that thing and I put music on, I'll just be pumping music, hooting and hollering, and I get out of it. And then I'm just like, man, if I can do that, I can do anything. I can do any task on my list today that I've been wanting to put off because I got underneath that cold shower. And so I love them. I know it's a little weird. I'll jump in the ocean too. I will.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, because you're used to surfing in the colder ocean, right? So
I'll go in without a wetsuit and go swim in the middle of winter. And it is cold, but there's just something about it. I feel like it makes the mind and the body feel strong. And I know might sound crazy to some folks, and you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Hey, that's fine. But there's something about facing fears, facing things that we put off, and it just seems connected to that in some way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Tim Gordon's our guest today here on the Minding Your Business podcast. He's the founder and president of Gordon Buys Homes. That's gordonbuyshomes.com. Make sure you check that out. It's in the show notes. Go to gordonbuyshomes.com and you can connect, learn more about Tim and his company. And if you decide to reach out to Tim or connect with him, let him know that you heard him right here on the Minding Your Business podcast. And so, Tim, man, that's it's been tremendous, man. It's great having you. I look forward to having you back on again and seeing you kind of in some of the clubhouse rooms, and look to remain connected with you, man. It's really dope what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. And if as like a little freebie to anyone listening, if you need a wholesale contract or you're looking to get into that stuff, if you go to gordonbuyshomes.com/free, there's a contract there that you can download and an assignment contract too. And that's just sort of a little thing I put out there for new folks if they want one. And it's for educational purposes only, consultant attorney. But if anyone wants to reach out and just say hello and chat, please do not hold back. I think it's really important to have confidence reaching out to folks in this world. And a lot of us are really friendly and helpful, just like Champ Ron. And so if you want to say hi, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, no doubt. Great way to sum that up. And that's gordonbuyshomes.com/free MYB community. So make sure that's in the show notes as well. So make sure that you tap there if you're needing a copy of a contract, assignment contract, things like that. And again, I'll echo Tim's disclosure. Make sure that you consult with your local attorney as you look to use that documentation. So it's for educational purposes only. So I want to make sure to share that with everybody. So anyway, Tim, man, I'm gonna let you get back to your day, man. I appreciate you jumping in with me so early, family, and look to remain connected and can be a resource when needed. So we'll catch you next time, my man.
Thank you. It's been an absolute honor. So just happy to be here.
Yep, no doubt about that. Again, Tim Gordon with gordonbuyshomes.com. Go to gordonbuyshomes.com, and then again go to gordonbuyshomes.com/free to get access to some free resources there for you as you look to launch your business. Listen, we're going to go ahead and get out of here, folks. Thank you so much. Continue to connect with me. I appreciate your support of the podcast. Don't forget 5-star wherever you get your pods, and leave a positive review. That always helps with growing the community. Reach out to me. You can catch me on social media at Champron. I'd love to be able to connect, and I'll echo what Tim said, that I love to be accessible, love to hear from you, good, bad, or ugly. One of the best things that hopefully we've learned from this pandemic, that is the importance of us connecting just as people. So love to be able to do that. As we get out of here, I always leave you with this, that there's 3 things that unite us, no matter where you're from, no matter what part of the country, what side of the tracks, no matter how you look in the mirror. We all want to be a little bit better for ourselves, a little bit better for our families, a little bit better for our communities. And if we keep all those things in mind when we connect with each other, despite all the noise that's going on, right? All the different things that we see and hear and that sort of thing. It basically comes down to, if we keep those things in mind, that we're all ultimately striving for the same thing. We may not always agree with how to get there, but ultimately we're striving to get to the same place, and that's to be just a little bit better for ourselves, our families, and our communities. And if we do that, we can all collectively make this place just a little bit better. Champ Ron, the Minding Your Business podcast.